add a 0. So it would be 150 milligrams in each slice of cheese. The same goes for milk. It'll say Ca, which stands for calcium, and it'll say 30% is in an 8-ounce glass of milk. So then, of course, you would remove the percent sign and add a 0. So an 8-ounce glass of milk would give you 300 milligrams of calcium. So you can do that for any food label for calcium only. It doesn't work for the other nutrients that are listed on the label, but you can do that for calcium, and it can help you add up during the day, and you can see how well you're doing with your calcium-rich foods. Yogurt, cheese, broccoli is a good source. There's calcium-fortified bread. There is calcium-fortified orange juice. There are a lot of products out there that have been enriched with calcium. I want to go over the recommendations for calcium so that you can know how well you're doing. And really what I recommend is taking a 3 to 5 day diet record and adding up the milligrams of calcium that you think you get, each day over a 3 to 5 day period. And if you're not reaching your goal, then supplementation may be something that you want to consider, and that's fine. I'll talk about the supplements real quick, actually, before I give you the recommendations. There's 2 main types of supplements. There's calcium carbonate and there's calcium citrate. The calcium citrate is actually, a little bit more effective, a little bit better than the calcium carbonate. The type of calcium is going to be listed on the label. For instance, Tums. A lot of people take Tums for their stomach, and Tums is actually a good source of calcium. Tums is calcium carbonate. Citracal, for example, will be calcium citrate. So it's on the label. There's 2 different kinds. They're both fine, but the calcium citrate is probably a little bit better absorbed. You want to make sure if you're taking a calcium supplement that you separate them out. If you're taking 2, you want to make sure you take 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening. Your body can only absorb about 500 milligrams of calcium at a time. So that's the benefit of separating them out. You want to make sure you can maximize your absorption. And there's some Viactive. It's a little chocolate chew. They're a good source of calcium. There's lots of them out there, but just make sure you look at the type of calcium and then how many milligrams are in each tablet to see, make sure that you're taking what you need. And lastly, I just want to finish up with the recommendations for calcium. For men and women aged 25 to 65, the recommendation is 1,000 milligrams of calcium a day. So, you can go back to the food labels, to the foods that you usually eat, total those up, see how well, if you're in this age bracket, that you come to reaching 1,000. If you generally eat 2 to 3 calcium-rich foods a day, you're probably going to be pretty close to 1,000 milligrams. So that's sort of a good rule of thumb. So if you can get in 3 calcium-rich foods, you're probably doing okay. If you are postmenopausal, if you are over 65 or you have a strong family history, you've already been shown that you've had some bone loss, the recommendation is going to be bumped up to 1,500 milligrams of calcium a day. We also want to make sure that we combine our calcium with vitamin D. The recommendations for vitamin D are between 400 to 800 IUs a day. If you take just a regular multivitamin, that will give you 400 IUs. So that's really sufficient. If you take a multivitamin and you take calcium, you really don't need to take an additional vitamin D supplementation unless it's been recommended by your physician. So those are the things that I wanted to cover tonight. I wanted just to really talk about what the recommendations from the National MS Society are, and then also talk a little bit about osteoporosis, since that's a prevalent condition, and it is nutrition. There's a lot of nutrition component to osteoporosis. So at this time, Tom, if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to take them. Thank you all very much for listening.
Hey, at this time, I would like to remind everyone that if you would like to ask a question, please press 7 on your telephone keypad. And we have our first question. Comes from Rita.
Yes, I just want to ask the gal who's been talking, what does she think about gluten-free foods for people with MS?
All right, Rita, I heard your question being, what did I think about gluten-free foods and as it relates to MS? And that's a very good question. For all those that are listening, gluten-free is, well, it's a diet that those with celiac disease actually follow. It's when the body cannot tolerate wheat and wheat-based products in their system, and it, those individuals with celiac disease have to strictly follow a gluten-free diet. There are other, a lot of people follow a gluten-free diet just by choice. Now, I don't know a lot about how it relates to MS. I do know that, I mean, it's a perfectly healthy way to eat. Not, there's nothing adverse that I've heard about, following the gluten-free diet.
Okay.
Are you following a gluten-free diet?
No. My boyfriend, where he goes for exercise, the gentleman that's helping him with exercise, just recently has recommended him to start following this.
Oh, okay. It's a pretty extreme. I mean, like, it takes a lot of shopping around for gluten-free products and a lot of research, and it's kind of tough to eat in restaurants. But I mean, it's definitely a doable, diet. But it,
Okay. I was just curious. Okay.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Sharon.
Yes.
Hi, Sharon. Go ahead.
Hi. I've heard you talking about the importance of calcium. Can you tell me what someone in my situation would need to do? I am petite and small-boned and probably need to take calcium because I'm approaching 50. But I had a kidney stone several years ago, and my urologist recommended that I not take calcium. And I don't know what I need to do. Do you have any recommendations?
I run into that a lot. Thank you, Sharon. That's a good question. She was saying that her urologist had recommended that she not take calcium supplements. A lot of kidney stones are calcium, either calcium-based or they come from too much calcium in your body. What I would recommend first is that you get a DEXA scan. Have you had one of those from your physician where they check your bone density?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Well, that's your first thing. Did it show that you had lost bone, or did it show that you were osteoporosis?
No, ma'am, it did not.
Okay. Probably what it showed then is that your bone density was, very good right now, very sufficient. So you probably don't need to take any supplements. I would make sure that they repeat the bone density test at least every 2 to 5 years so that they can track your progress. If and when they started to see that you were beginning to lose bone, then it's something that you can revisit with your urologist and with your physician. But probably you primarily want to get your calcium from foods instead of supplements right now. But the good news is it doesn't really sound like that you need any supplements right now. So, keep an eye on it. Like I said, every 2 to 5 years, make sure that they give you another bone scan and make sure they catch it. If they can catch it when you first start losing some bone mass, if that happens.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So much.
Our next question comes from Lynette, from Mary.
I just wanted to ask, I'm allergic to milk products, and I have MS, and I'm supposed to take it. But do I take more calcium pills for it, or can I make it up in some time?